Welcome to Bay Rats and Buoys Season 2 with your host, Captain Gage.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bay Rats and Buoys. I'm your host, Captain Gage. This is episode number 34, Season 2. Brought to you in part by Seatow Huntington. Are you a member? Visit seatow.com to join today. And the Fisherman Magazine, my favorite subscription to get in the mail. And Clicks Fueling. Clicks is the fix. Visit clicksfueling.com. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Sitting in the sunshine. It's nice and hot. Shorts and a t-shirt. Got my flip-flops on. And there's nothing better than being barefoot on the boat in shorts and a t-shirt. So the weather is finally heating up. And we've been saying, May is always iffy, nothing you can do. The fishing is heating up. There's a lot going on. It's been so busy. But just to clarify some information that came across the internet, it was brought to my attention that last week there was an article, something was written about the Bay Rats and Buoys first annual Striped Bass Invitational that's going down on Sunday, June 22nd, saying that we were having an after party, an award ceremony in Lindenhurst. And I just want to clarify that that is not true. That is not happening in Lindenhurst. We will release that information to everybody that signs up. And where we are having it, we're keeping everything in the Northport, Huntington area. So we will make that information public to people most likely next week. We're going to reveal all that stuff as we get a little bit closer to the tournament. If you guys want to sign up for the shotgun start right here just north of the Huntington Lighthouse, you head over to stripedbassinvitational.com. There's no better time than right now to sign up. Yesterday we took on West Marine as a sponsor for the tournament here in Huntington. So that's awesome. We appreciate all the local businesses that are here in the area that are supporting this competition for conservation. This is going to be an epic striped bass tournament. We're going to tag and release everything. Right now, everybody that has registered for the tournament has said yes, they are tagging, and yes, they need tags. So that is a really good sign, and we're going to be proud of this one, guys. So get involved. It's going to be for a great cause. Let's do it, and we'll be excited to have you involved, really, seriously. So the yellow-eyed demons have made their invasion. They're here. They showed up even in the harbor yesterday. They were back here just harassing bait, which they're doing out there. So Monday, or I should say, let's say Sunday night. So Sunday night, Matt and I think Rich come back, and they had one of the most epic Sunday evenings out there. Top, or you name it, they were crushing everything. So we were going out. Now, you guys hear me mention Manny from the West all the time, and we invited Manny out on the boat Monday morning. We were meeting at the boat at 5:30. Funny, I sent him a text saying 5:30 at the boat, 6 o'clock, fish on. That's what I said to him. And we get out there. We leave a little after 5:30 on the boat, and we get into the bay, and the blues are jumping out of the water. The birds are working. We got some great video footage of the blues jumping out of the water. It was pretty cool. And it was just great to see that kind of life happening again. But, it's expected this time of the year, so it's just great when it actually turns on like that. We love that style of fishing. So we were thinking we're going to go get into them. It's going to be thick. It's going to be crazy. We're going to be tired of catching them. However, it was quite the opposite of that. And the word that I'm getting from other people and us, and this would be the intel, is that they were very finicky as far as what they were eating. So they weren't just chewing every artificial that you threw at them, and that's because there's such an abundance of bait right now in the water. You got mackerel, you got butterfish, you got the sand eels, you got bunkers. So these fish are gorging, and if you were putting down live bait, so if you had croakers or you had bunker, and you were dropping these down, within 30 seconds your rod was bending. Now, I didn't see that happening as much for the guys that were next to us for a short period that were using eel, okay? But I know if you were putting bunker down, you were getting hit, you were getting crushed, and it was fish on. So they are hitting the live bait. So if you want to get out there and chunk and do the live bait, there's no better time than right now to do that. So we're excited to get out there and do the night chunk and do the night bite too as well. But we're also a great last-minute team to get together and say, hey, can we go out tomorrow? So there's days that we can go out every morning. You know, and there's places in our area, even when it is blowing, that we can still go and get on some this big fish here. This big fish inside. I mean, me and Corey are saying we're catching 36-inch bass. To us, those are dinks. We're throwing 36 ones back like they're nothing, and we're catching 39, 40, 45s. Everybody's catching big fish, and they're on top water, which is, to me, it's the most fun you could have with a fishing rod in your hand. And here's a great video. You know, here's a clip. I showed you guys in one of the episodes that I used this very skinny, very lightweight RH rod with a Stratic on it, and you know, I got into a really big bass. Even though they were finicky, they still went for what I was throwing, and we were throwing everything at them. Me, Manny, and Corey threw every lure we had at these fish because they were stacked up. We were finding them, but they were very finicky, and we realized it wasn't just us. It was all around. They were very finicky. However, there were times when you saw them hit the umbrella rig, okay? So they might have been going after schools more than they were going after a single mojo or a single flutter spoon, because that action was null. We didn't get anything on the flutter. We got blues on the mini mojo, and we got the bass. Eventually, we got them to hit throw in top water into some explosions, which was really cool. They did chase the spook a few times. And don't you hate that when you actually see the explosion, you see him go after it, he misses. He comes back, he goes for it again, and he misses again. That drives me crazy that they either have bad aim or they're just missing my lure. And you see how big they are. I mean, some of these fish on top water are just epic. It's insane. So great time of the year. And, you know, the fluke bite guys just went out. They caught nothing but shorts. And that's going to happen. You know, I spoke to somebody here in the marina that also takes fluke charters out, and he went out. They caught 45 fish, and all 45 were shorts. So that's going to happen. And with the bluefish here, they're going to start to harass the bait and chase. This changes the bite for everybody out there, so it really turns on now. So they're going to harass the bait. They're already starting to chase the bait into the harbor. So there's a good chance we're going to see pods of bunker back here in the harbors and in our area very shortly, because they are chasing them right now. They're out in the bay, and the bunker are on top, and they're getting harassed by the blues. So that's always great to see. We love it. But anytime you want to get out there and do live lining and chunking at night and just sit there and wait for the rods to peel off, there's no better time than when this temperature finally gets up to the 70s at nighttime and you're out there in shorts and a T-shirt. For us, that's the best. And we invite you to come do that. Visit sandcitycharter.com and book a charter, get out with us. And we're very flexible as far as, you know, working times. And if we have to reschedule, like, geez, Monday night, we went back out for a second time. And one of the issues I had was I stretched the cable. So I went to get up on plane, and boom, there I felt it. I had done this a few years ago. And turns out I had a faulty cable. It was a brand new C-Star cable, and it failed. You know, and it happens. And it shouldn't have failed in the lifespan that it had. It was a very short lifespan. It was only like, 2 years old. So usually you're going to get more life out of those. So when I upgrade and when I buy things, I try to buy the better, you know, not the aftermarket. I try to buy the, you know, the good stuff and replace it with good and, you know, maybe buy a couple of them so you have it when it breaks. It's that time of the year. Boat mechanics are very, very busy, to say the least. And it affects certain things. You know, you have to reschedule a charter, reschedule people. So that's just owning a boat. You all know what I'm talking about. So if you own a boat, you get down there, you fire it up, you're like, all right, we got another day, let's go. You get down there and you turn the key and something's not right, you know, it's, hey, we're going to have to fix that. And that's part of boat ownership. Welcome to boat ownership. So what's going on? I had a great conversation this week with the DEC. It was fantastic. In fact, I was able to talk about the regulations and, you know, what's going on locally in our area with local DEC here in my area. And it was great because, you know, I always ask the question, and I do ask multiple people this question. 28 to 31, you catch a 31. The wording says equal to 31 and greater has to go back. And they say, no, you can keep a 31. So they're looking for people when they were giving out tickets and doing stuff that people are looking to hide the fish. And they jump on your boat and you have a 31-inch fish that you measured. That's a hair over and it's close to 31. And you're honest about it. They're not looking to give tickets to people that caught a 31-inch fish. And it's, your measuring device may be questionable. No measuring device is perfect. In fact, mine on the floor has a 0. So you actually, if you went to the end and measured a 31, you would have a 32. Which is very easy for somebody to do while the fish is banging around on the deck and you're trying to, keep them or release them, make that decision. And when you have people chartering and they want to go home with fillets of 31-inch fish, you want to keep it, and you can. And, there's a lot of questions out there. So there's a lot of people keeping, 15, 16s and hide 4 or 5 of them. And, that's where you're going to get, there's no room for that. So we don't want that happening. And there was talk in a few of the groups and even locally amongst the captains because everybody's trying to, chime in and figure out what would be the best way to do this. And because the fishery's doing really well. None of us really have a number for the discard mortality rate. And how can we? None of the fish I tagged have been floating in my area where somebody called up the number on the tag and said, I found this fish floating, in this area, wherever it drifted, wherever they got it, wherever they found it. So to me, that's a good sign. Where these fish go off to and do is why we're tagging them so that we can eventually get that information and see where they're swimming to and how big they got and all that, great knowledge. These aren't satellite tags. These are just regular tags with a barb that you pop in, you remove a scale, you pop it in, and you release the fish. I tagged those 53 sharks a few summers ago. I haven't heard a word on any of the sharks that we tagged. Those sharks might not be caught for a decade. They may never be caught. There was only 50 of them, 53 to be exact. And we were proud of that. That was awesome. But after speaking to them, keeping shorts, keeping overs, this is what they're looking for. And they do write tickets, and they do penalize people. We were talking about the saltwater registry. It's free, so, they should charge for that. This way people have to pay to have it, just like you have to do for the freshwater. And because people think, oh, it's free, I don't have to go apply for it and get it. But if they had to pay, then it would be a whole different ballgame. So that question comes in. And then the question of, should you be allowed to just keep one fish any size? Problem is we could lose, thousands of breeders because everybody kept that one trophy, thinking that they actually need the fish to turn it in to get it taxidermed and hung on the wall, which you don't. Take a picture of it, measure it, measure the girth, take good photos of it, and submit it to the great companies that make a replica of the fish. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's how Gray's got started. And now they do a whole bunch of other stuff besides that, especially with the Gray's Fish Tag Research. And we're happy to be getting our tags through them for the tournament that's coming up on Sunday, June 22nd. So it was just great to talk to the DEC in the local area and know that they are, where they're telling us they were going and looking and checking people. It's just great to hear because, again, a lot of the guys here in the marina that I'm friends with are all looking to do the right thing by the fish and keep this fishery growing. But we mentioned the discard mortality rate. And, I did a video a while back with Captain Jimmy over at the James Joseph, and we did it with Mark at Cow Harbor. We were in his shop, and Captain James brought in his a big replica of a big bass, showing how the circle hooks work and how where you want to hook them and the right way and all that fun stuff. So depress the barb, use your pliers, press the barb down. That makes it easier. So if you gut hook these fish, you're gonna gut hook them. If that happens, that's what we were trying to avoid. That's what the circle hooks were for. So that the fish takes off and it turns and you get them in the in the mouth where you want to hook them. So it's great to see that people are talking about it and trying to regulate it and figure out a way that we can do this. And because it's a tough slot limit, 28 to 31 definitely is a tough slot limit. A 28-inch fish is 6 years old. So catching and keeping 15 and 16-inch fish that people have recently been caught doing, those are real juvenile bass. And it's important to keep the juveniles. It's important to keep the big fat ones that, you see the people on Facebook always chiming in when somebody shows you a picture of a big bass that they kept that's clearly an over. I mean, the guy, and that's the other thing that we discussed was these regulations they vary statewide. So when you see pictures on Facebook, everybody's so fast to say, you got to let the breeders go, or, they're salmon killers, and there's just so much content with the keyboard warriors. Some guys I love when they write, yep, just sit back and relax and read this thread. It's going to get out of control. Here we go. And they're right. It is going to get out of control. Everybody's going to chime in. And when they see the big bass being held upside down and sideways and whatnot. And so I'm going to challenge you guys. I'm going to show you a video here, and we're going to start looking for the best release videos. Show us the best release video you have with the bass. I got some great ideas for some new ones coming up. And, here's one. We just gave him a nice torpedo. This fish took off. Pretty cool. Every time Corey torpedoes it, he's a big splash and a kaplunk next to the boat, and everybody gets wet. So we're trying to eliminate that style. Corey. Jeez. But he's an awesome first mate. And Corey's Customs. We do some really cool stuff, and we love it. So we're coming to get you. Guys want to catch fish, jump on the boat. Manny, we had a blast with Manny on Monday. That was epic. But, man, he was like, welcome to my world. They're finicky, because he writes to me when he's in the West there how finicky they are. And, I brought up a 39-inch bass, and he was like, damn, that is a nice fish, And West where he was, they were catching smaller bass in the bays and, I guess in their area. So he was excited to see the topwater action on these bigger fish that we were reeling in. Was incredible. But again, we had such a blast. It was a ton of fun. And, we've met a lot of really cool people through the podcast. Whether it was at the Ward Melville show where we did meet Manny in person, and we did meet Frank in person. So that was cool. We met a bunch of guys at the boat show too. And I got to say, everybody that we've met so far, they were the ones that signed up right away for the tournament, which was pretty cool. And even people that we didn't meet signed up. But, the Bay Rats and Buoys listeners, the good news is we got some merch coming out, so now you guys can really represent, and we could have some fun with it. But let's make a cool video of your release of the striped bass, how you release it. We're making some fun ones ourselves, and we'll share it, and we'll make some cool stuff. So if you make a cool video of a release, send it to me. And I'm sure you can figure out how to get in touch with me. It's really not that hard at sandcitycharter.com. You could always even just fill out the form. I'll put a few options. I'll add a few options in the form now as opposed to just 4-hour charter, 6-hour full day. I'll change some of those options so you can click on something so you don't have to send me a charter request. When you're sending me something else that has to do with Bay Rats and Buoys, we'll put it on the pod. Maybe we'll put a form on the podcast page. So there you go. Just happened right here on episode 34 of Bay Rats and Buoys, Season 2. On the boat, in the sun. I am cooking here today, and it feels good to cook in the sun as opposed to be in the studio. I sat down here last night on the boat. I did the report for the Fisherman magazine. I just hung up with Timothy Smith, too. He just gave me a call from the magazine. So we got some really good stuff happening next week that we'll obviously share with you when you see it next week. It's going to be pretty cool. Very excited. But yeah, there were bugs out last night. Doing the report, I'm sitting on the boat, and I'm like, oh, my God, you forget about these gnats. You hope you have a little bit of a breeze. Today it's like 9 to 11. The wind is 9 to 11. South-southwest as turns to south, so that's why you see my back to the south. And, just trying to block some of the wind into the microphone. That's all. That's where it really determines which way I'm sitting on the boat. So, sorry, John, you can't see the flag on your boat. Let me see. Yep, your flag's blowing. It's good. Your zip tie's held tight. You're good to go. Which was funny because he saw his flag flapping around with a zip tie off of it, and he saw it wasn't flying right in the episode in the background on the video. So he came down to his boat to fix that. And, you don't need an excuse to come down to the marina to do anything to your boat, because when you come down to it, there's always something to do. There is. Me and Corey are always making and building and doing something to better us and make us more efficient out there on the water, because you got to go out there prepared. I mean, it could happen in an instant. You see those fish, you better be tied up and ready to go. If you're sitting there putting a lure, gone. By the time you even decide which one you're throwing on, they're gone. You got to decide that at the dock, though, and you're going out there. You're going to see birds, what you should throw, what you should do, and be ready and tied up. That's rule number one when I get on the boat. Everything's ready. Then it's food, snacks, and drinks, and ice, and all the other stuff, and all the good stuff. Not to mention the gas. You got to make sure that you're leaving with gas when the gas dock is open, or fill up the day before. If you're leaving at 5:30 in the morning like we were, because the fuel dock's not open at 5:30 in the morning. So, it's all that planning that goes into just a simple trip. Meeting down at the boat at 5:30 means you're waking up super early. You're leaving the house, it's cold. You got your sweatshirt on, and by the time you get out here and the sun comes out, you're in shorts and a T-shirt, and you're sweating to death. And that's Chef Rob's phrase. We're going to go out. He's like, what time we going till? And we just write until death, until we can't do it anymore. There's no time limit. That was another funny video I made. But speaking of Chef Rob, check this out, guys. So this is so cool. Last week he calls me up and he sends me a video. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. And he sends me a video from the day before. And he's in the Carolinas now, so he goes out and fishes the lake and does some, local. He's definitely jumping around looking in lakes and all the local areas down there to get on the fish because he's missing the Huntington Northport area that he left to go down there because, you don't realize how good we have it here, as far as being back bays, working it, the beaches, the sound, the reefs, all of that stuff, the wrecks, all the stuff that we have that's in 20 minutes of the dock. It's just unbelievable. So he's throwing a paddle tail into a lake, and he's catching every species known to mankind, and he's having a ball doing it. And then he hooks into something, and he's like, damn, felt like it was real. He reeled in an alligator. He's got it here on the video. I'm definitely going to put it up. And it was a little bit of a shocker to him, but he's so cool. He'll wrestle that thing around on the grass. He don't care how big, what it is. But it was a small one, so he didn't have to wrestle it. But I'm just saying, if you know Chef Rob, like I know Chef Rob, he's talking to this thing like, hey, bud. Hey, bud. He's talking into it like he's got a pet gerbil in his house, and this thing will take his, his wrist off. Wow. And it had a swim shed in him, and believe it or not, the alligator dehooked itself, which we all wish those bluefish would do, which is why I switch out all my treble hooks. I do not want to catch bluefish on treble hooks, and anybody working with waders knows exactly what I'm talking about because that happened to me all the way out at Smith's Point. I was at the breach in clear water, and I got wolf packs of bluefish just swimming by me, and I'm throwing an SP that's getting crushed every cast halfway across the channel. Boom, this thing's on with, 13, 15-pound blues, and when you get them in close to you in the water, you're working with a bluefish in the water with an SP hook that has 2 treble hooks on it, and one of them got caught in my waders. You all know what I'm talking about if you surf cast. That's normal. But to walk back, there was a little pinhole in my waders, and my wader filled up. So I'm walking back from the breach with, water up to, just below my knee. So even when we threw out into the, Corey caught the bluefish on a mini mojo, which was so cool because the way it got hooked, it did not destroy his swim shad that was on there. It didn't bite the tail off, which was unbelievable. It was like a 10-pound blue. I'd say about a 9-pound bluefish. And it spit the hook. It got next to the boat, and I said to him, just keep it there for the video. And we were videotaping a little bit. Unfortunately, I was in time-elapse mode, so the video was like you got Tourette's. But I was able to take a screenshot of it, so you could see here on the screen. I'll put up the screenshot, and then you see I got a good screenshot of it with the mini mojo in its mouth just to show you what it went for, But we didn't want to throw anything with treble hooks on it because the treble hooks are just, so we're switching out everything. I am a huge fan of the BKK hooks. I know Howie was showing me. I pulled up to him in the harbor. I told you that story already. I pulled up to him, talking to him on his beautiful regulator, and he had also, I saw his spook was there, and it had, nice BKK hooks on it. And, that's the way to go. Those BKK hooks are awesome, and you swap out those trebles, it's the best thing. It's great for the fish, too. It's so much easier to get it out, and if they do inhale it and they inhale those trebles, you guys know what it's like. Every one of us has had to reach our hand, and we have a pretty long dehooker. I can't grab it right now because it's not in the spot where Corey was supposed to put it, but we have a pretty long handle on it to get it down to be able to push the hook down. But even Matt came back Sunday. He had to put his hand down the mouth of a striped bass to get the hook out of there, and it didn't bleed out, and it was fine. But again, that's hard to do, and your hand gets all cut up going down there. I mean, that rib cage and whatever that is in there, that is just sharp. Oh, doing surgery on these bass is not fun. So that's why, there's no way to know whether or not they're going to inhale your presentation. I mean, it's great when they do because it's a good hook set, but it's not good when they're hooked and they come up and you already see the blood going down the side of them, coming out their gills, and you gut hooked them. That's never a good look. So we're happy to use the singles and change it up a little bit. And maybe the manufacturers, but everybody fishes differently in different areas, so the manufacturers aren't going to do it for certain areas, but maybe they consider getting rid of the trebles, who knows. But then there's people that I guess needed to hook up. They wanted to hook up. They wanted to be stuck to the side of his vase. I don't know. So that's just my personal opinion. I like making it easier on us. Rob, who has the 32-foot pursuit, he also fishes with Howie, and he was saying that, they just let it go with the gunnel of the boat. They're not even taking the fish over, so he'll never send me pictures. I can't say never, but he usually doesn't send me pictures of them holding up giant fish. They're usually leaning over the gunnel and getting them, don't even take them out of the water, which is the proper way to do it, where now we got the GoPro on a big pole, right? So we'll put it in the water, and now we're filming from outside of the boat back at the boat, and we're going to be filming a lot of releases. So that's going to be like the thing that we do this year, is filming a lot of underwater stuff and releasing and just cool video footage. So we're looking to change that all up as opposed to seeing the rods bent on the boat and everything from the boat view. And, I'll be using the drone a lot more, for sure. Any of you guys that fly a drone from the boat know exactly what I'm talking about as far as, calibrating, and you're out there. If it's rough, you really can't use it, and you can if you're going to hold it and calibrate it. But that's important, when you go to let it go, it may not want to take off in rough seas because it needs to be calibrated. And calibrating a drone out there in 3-4 foot waves is probably not the easiest thing. But when it's flat like it is today, you could do it, So lots going on. I mean, kudos to West Marine here in Huntington jumping on as a sponsor for Bay Rats and Buoys' first annual striped bass tournament coming up Sunday, June 22nd. And again, we clarified there is no after award ceremony in Lindenhurst. There was a misprint on that. So if you did read that, we apologize, and mistakes happen. We don't know who did it, how it was, and that's that. We're not blaming anybody. We're not mad. Things happen. We have a month to 3 weeks to rectify it. The tournament's a little less than 3 weeks away now. So 18 days, just over 2 weeks. So it's really, it's before you know it, it's going to be Father's Day, and then it's a week after that. So hopefully you guys can register and get involved. It is going to be epic, and that's it. And just like that, 28 minutes gone sitting on the boat. Yesterday I sat here, oh my God, I had glasses and headphones on, and the bugs only had 2 places to go, and that was my nose and my mouth. And I felt like I was spitting out gnats down here, and it was windy. I thought there was enough of a breeze to keep them away, but that's why I'm going to be doing it in the afternoon now. I apologize to any of the listeners that do look for it at 6 o'clock on Thursday, because that's usually the time that it's up by. It has been late a few times. I'm a human being, and a busy one at that, to say the least. So I appreciate everybody, last week, even the ones that sent me comments and texts and emails, I didn't get it up until Friday. And that was just based on weather, what was going on, scheduling, this time of the year. Everybody's got the kids, the graduation parties, all the stuff happening. And that's why in a few weeks that all ends. And, colleges are out. The college kids are here working. People are sending me a ton of emails. They want to mate on the boat. They want to work in the industry. They want to get down here and do it. And it's young kids too, 14, 15, 16. So it's great to see that younger generation that wants to be involved in the fishing industry, because there's so many things to do. Matt was commending his guys over at J&M Seafood today. He's got an awesome staff over there. And some of them are great fishermen. And, he was attributing why, how successful his, J&M Seafood is based on his, awesome staff over there. And it's always nice to hear because, when you have longevity at a company, you're there for a few reasons. They're good to you, you're good to them, and there's it works, And usually that longevity, goes back to management. Everything. You walk into a store and you got crappy employees, it all points back to management. And it was just nice to hear him saying that. But, man, he went out today. He was on them, too. Had a window to get out on his way back in. He even saw the blues. He saw waves of bluefish harassing the bunker. That as soon as I get this fixed, I'm hoping I can get back out there and get on some of these bunker. Right now we got croakers. We want to get bunker and head out there with live bait because that is the way to go right now. If you guys can use live bait, you will catch more fish than anybody out there. There is such an abundance of bait that the bass are finicky. The blues may not be so finicky. Okay, but you also know how voracious they are and how they feed. I mean, they'll stuff their mouths and can't breathe anymore and kill themselves with bunker in their mouth. But they're also a ton of fun, especially when they go into the back bays and you're throwing a really light tackle on. We know they're the best fish here, pound for pound, for a fight. But you're not catching a 45-inch bluefish that weighs 30 pounds. That's why we fish for the bass. The bass are the trophy fish here for us, and the big ones are here. They are here. And we're excited, Weather finally shifting. May was iffy. May was shitty. Straight up, May was shitty, and we all know it. I'm not going to say it again, but I always say this 2-week window in May, and if you get out on those windows, you got your fishing in May and be happy. And now that it's June, look at the weather. We got 80 degrees. This is what it should be like in June on Long Island. The water temperature, I feel, is still behind based on captain's logs. But these nights that it's going to be hotter and high 60s or in the 60s is going to warm up the temperature because right now in the Sound we saw it 60, 61, 62. And I don't have my electronics on here on the boat right now, although I would tell you what it's sitting at in the harbor. But it's definitely heated up with these warm nights coming. And yeah, May was cold. May was cold, no doubt about it. And I think that's why we're behind. So the fishing is ramping up right now. It's great. You want to get out? Let's go catch some fish. You got your own boat? Get out there. You want to know what to use? We tell you in every episode, what we use. We're putting down the vibes. I've shown you the Nomad vibes. We're using the mini mojos. Everybody's using flutter spoons. In fact, some guys have walked up to me on the dock and been like, yo, check it out. I got my first flutter spoon, and when we were fishing with Manny, we put down 3 colors, chartreuse, silver, and gold. Let's see who gets hit. Let's swap it up. Maybe the white one is the one you need to put down. You don't know until you use them all. So that's why when we get to where we're going, we see them stacked up. And guys, oh my God, I was taking screenshots on the new Simrad of, floor to ceiling bass just stacked up. And again, finicky bass stacked up. So it wasn't like anything you dropped into them, you were hooking up. If you put down live bunker, boom, you're on. You put down a croaker, boom, you're on. You put down a flutter spoon, not on Monday, maybe on Sunday. So that's how it changes out there. And I love being out here every day to really see how it changes. It's, one day is epic. You think the next day you go back out there, you think it's going to be insane. It's going to be just like yesterday. And it's nothing like yesterday. That's fishing, and we love it. That's what makes you want to go back. Some guys, you go out, you catch nothing, you want to go back out because you didn't catch anything. Sometimes you get out there, it's insane, you want to go back out. The next day, you're pissed you're at work because everybody's out there catching. You know what? You're at work. It might be the day that they're finicky, and not everybody's going to be so honest and tell you how finicky they are and say, yeah, it wasn't as good or it was great. I'm telling you, I am being very transparent. If, we get skunked, I'm going to tell you, Guys that are catching fluke and going on fluke trips, catching shorts. I was psyched last Tuesday that we got a 19-inch and a 19.5-inch fish on the boat. That was awesome. For our first bottom fishing trip with kids on the boat, that was cool. And, we're going to go out and target all the different stuff. We really are. Me and Corey are very excited to do that. And we're going to do it all with live bait. We're going to do live spearing, killies, you name it. We have the nets to throw. We have the gear to get out there and get them. So we're going to go get them, put them in the live well. I just put another pump on. I put an 1,100 gallons per hour. I had an 800. And now the current in there is insane. All the fish are in the same direction. It's pretty cool to see. But we have a pretty big live well on the boat, and it's awesome. And it's great to load it up and get out there and know that we have what they're feeding on, that we don't have to match the hatch. We're actually putting down the hatch, and that's going to make it easier for guys to hook up. And we're excited. And I'm just telling you, you should do the same if you have the means and the methods to do that. You know what I mean? But live is way better than anything else right now, you know? We got new rods that we didn't even test out yet, you know? So we got to get everything on the boat and get out there and take some charters out and put them on some big fish. Next, it's just crazy. Even tomorrow, I told you guys about that charter that I'm chaperoning for my daughter's school. That's tomorrow, you know? So I wouldn't have time to sit down here and do the podcast. I'll be in Captree early in the morning tomorrow. And even for her trip, I'm bringing bait. I know what she needs. I'm going to give it to her, whether it's on the boat or not. You know, I don't know what they're using and what even they're fishing for. I really don't. All I know is my son's trip a few years ago. They went out on this, and nobody on the boat caught anything. So we're going to try to avoid that. The last school trip that did go out this time of the year, this year, like a week ago, they caught some sand sharks, you know. So I don't know what they're putting down there for bait. So I'm bringing my own. See if I can hook her up. She'll be using one of my rods. And she's excited, so it's always fun to get out there with the kids. And my oldest, you know, he just took the boating safety course, so he passed. He took it. He sent me a message on my way down here. I'm like, all right, come on, get out here and drive the boat. Now you got, you know, teaching him docking and teaching my 12-year-old docking maneuvers. And you know, I'm in a tight spot, but you want to be able to spin your boat around and do things. You know, single engine, obviously, that's the hardest boat to control. You know, as you have more engines, the boat is easier to control, you know, and then it moves up to the joystick and the bow thrusters and all that fun stuff that, you know, just you can crab a boat sideways and do things. And the computer puts those engines and splits them to take you straight back as opposed to doing it manually. I like, even when I'm on the 38 outrage, I like to do it manually. I don't put it in dock mode. I don't like that the steering wheel locks, you know what I mean? You have to use the joystick, you know. I'd rather do everything manually and teach people manually. And the joystick is just a tool to use if you want to get out there and, you know, show off a little bit. Use it when you need it, you know. And another day, another episode in the books. This is it, episode 34. Big shout out to West Marine, Gold Coast Deli. They were the second to last ones to jump on. And, you know, the posters came in, so the posters are going up. The banners go up this week. And the postcard signs, the postcards are going out there on the counters in some of the tackle shops locally. We got some of those out yesterday. And just a lot going on. If you want to go register your boat, it's stripedbassinvitational.com. And looks like the weather's pretty good. We got a lot of good weather coming our way. It's finally heating up. Summer is approaching. It's still springtime, but it's 80 degrees, and I'm sitting on my boat. So I'm pretty happy. So get down, get out, get your lines wet, catch some fish. They're here. The blues are in. That's a ton of fun. And I'm going to sign off on that note. I'm going to leave you guys until next week. We got some big stuff to talk about next week. We got a special presentation on Wednesday that's going down, so that's really cool. I'll share more with you. You'll see that in next week's episode. I'll be able to talk about that and with some special guests and some stuff that's going on. And, again, you know, if you want to get involved in the tournament, let us know. Be happy to do it. You want to get out there and catch some fish, head on over to sandcitycharter.com and hit me up. The phone number there is shoot me a text, shoot me a message. You know, you call me right now. Obviously, I'm on the podcast. You know, you can go to voicemail. So if you go to voicemail, I'm busy doing something, or I'm up on plane, I can't talk, running the boat or the boats. Leave me a message, and I will definitely get back to you the same day. So, episode 34 is in the book. Season 2 on the boat. Captain Gage signing off. I will see you guys next week. Wishing everybody bent rods, tight lines, and I'll see you out on the water. Captain Gage, over and out. Bay Rats and Buoys presents Long Island's hottest new striped bass tournament. Our first annual Striped Bass Invitational, going down in the Long Island Sound, Sunday, June 22nd, 2025. Shotgun start at 7:30 a.m. just north of the Huntington Lighthouse. 4 categories with first, second, and third place. Grand prize for the longest striped bass division thanks to J&M Seafood. The first 25 boats to register will receive our tournament bucket loaded with sponsors' products. Compete for conservation in our tagging division. Catch and release format. Sponsorship opportunities are available. Sponsor the passion. Fuel the competition. Signing up is easy. Visit stripedbassinvitational.com. That's stripedbassinvitational.com. Or just scan the QR code.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Bay Rats and Buoys. Be sure to visit sandcitycharter.com and follow Captain Gage on all our social media channels.